Man, I really need an intro. All images in this video were provided by Cerebi.net, as well as some of the information regarding the artists. Hello again. Welcome to Fossil. I hope the scene that I've chosen fits the more wild area that we find ourselves in for the Pokemon TCG, as those office spaces were getting a bit stuffy recently. Anyways, Fossil. Right. The topic of the video today. Fossil's the third set released by Wizards of the Coast for the Pokemon TCG in 1999, and is the smallest set thus far, only featuring 62 total cards. This set also features the least amount of holo cards to date, merely 15 compared to the 16 of the other two sets. I know, a massive difference. This set also continues the trend of using the holo cards as non-holo variants, as well as actually having trainer cards, 5 of them compared to Jungle's merely one trainer card. To say that Fossil has desirable cards would be an understatement, as it's the introduction of Dragonite into the Pokemon TCG, which is kind of weird, considering the Dratini and Dragonair were in base set, but the Dragonite is in Fossil. Kinda strange structure if you ask me. Also, one of the holographic cards is a different Magneton, which was already a holo in base set. But hey, at least this one is done by a different artist, right? Ah, I also forgot to mention that Zapdos is a holographic card. Again. And so is Raichu. But at least Moltres and Articuno are here now. Only took them 2 more sets to introduce the other 2 legendary birds. Anyways, let's get into the artists. There's 5 of them this time around, which is the most unique artists in the TCG at this time. That number will of course continue to change a lot over the course of time, where at some point there will be close to 50 artists per set. Probably. But let's stay where we should be. Fossil. This set introduces a new artist to the Pokemon TCG, Miki Tanaka. They illustrated the Slowpoke card. The card shows Slowpoke simply standing in a field with a few clouds in the background. For a first card, it's definitely discernible from the other artists, as none of the other artists previously have had a style like this before. Maybe you could say that Tomoaki and their Porygon card is kinda similar, but that one was 3D and the Slowpoke is 2D. So though they are both simplistic, they are completely different. It's something that stands out from the rest of the Fossil set, that's for sure. Hopefully, we'll see a lot more of their artwork in the future. Spoiler alert, we definitely will. Despite only illustrating 8 cards for Fossil, Keiji Kinabuchi returns for some more cards. As the trainers are quote unquote back, Kinabuchi illustrated 4 of the 5 trainers in Fossil: the Energy Search, Gambler, Recycle, and the Mysterious Fossil. And considering the fact that there are only a handful of trainers in Fossil, the 4 that Kinabuchi did are all extremely distinct and unique. Good job, Kinabuchi. The recycle is just like sad. It has a beat up Jigglypuff being held up by a crane, which is like messed up or something. The energy recycle has some kind of robotic hand in it that has no representation in any of the rest of the Pokemon TCG to my knowledge. And the mysterious fossil relates to the new fossil Pokemon introduced in the set, which is quite surprising, I know. But the gambler really is just a pair of dice on some sort of gambling game table. But they're all very visually distinct and a good use of 3D graphics and effects, especially for 1999. And now, let's talk about Pokemon, which Kinabuchi technically did 4, but they're just the Gengar and the Ditto holos and non-holos. So they're essentially both the same in either version, but, just non-holo or holo versions. Though the Gengar is really just a basic 3D model, I still really love the design of it. It makes Gengar look pretty menacing, while also being at an angle where he's not just standing straight on. And now you can have a full Kinabuchi Ghastly line, if you wanted to, as they did the Ghastly and the Haunter from base set, which is pretty cool. The other Pokemon they did was Ditto, which is the first appearance of Ditto in the Pokemon TCG, same with Gengar, where he's just kinda weirdly standing there in front of a checkerboard pattern, which is a little less striking and a little less exciting than the Gengar, but he's still goopy and reflective, so that's a positive for the Ditto fans out there. Next, let's talk about Ken Sugimori. If you've seen my other 2 videos, which I'm gonna assume that you have, and I recommend that you do, but if you haven't, Sugimori is one of the most iconic artists in the Pokemon in general. So, to no surprise that he got 18 cards in this set, which is 1 more card than he got in Jungle. That's probably because he did 1 of the 5 trainer cards in the set, being Mr. Fuji, which I'm pretty sure I've owned at some point in my life, though I have no idea where it is, unfortunately. But Sugimori worked on 6 of the holographic cards from the set. being the Haunter, Hitmonlee, Hypno, Kabutops, and the Lapras. Oh, and the Magneton as well. These cards are the debut of Kabutops, Hypno, Hitmonlee, and Lapras into the Pokemon TCG, and I think that these cards do a pretty dang good showing off what it is that's so interesting about these Pokemon. The Hitmonlee is kicking, which is pretty much the Pokemon's main thing, kicking and jumping. The Hypno displays his pendulum while menacingly standing behind it as if using it for protection. The Kabutops primes its scythes as it looks forward, which is admittedly pretty basic, but Kabutops looks primed and ready for battle. The Lapras has its mouth open and its fins spread out in different directions. I know for sure that I have this card personally, so I might have to find it for this video. Let's not glaze over the Haunter though, which poses its ghostly hands out. It looks completely different from the Haunter from base set, and it even gets its own holo in Fossil. The Magneton card is cool, too, I guess. I mean, it's just Magneton posing a bit. Hey, I swear, I'm not a Magneton hater, but I just think that it's the least interesting holo in the set because Magneton already got a holographic card. Sugimori continues on with the background that he's been using for the past few sets. Colorful backgrounds like for the Seadra and the Amistar, and the realistic backgrounds for the Lapras and the Arbok, which is a card I personally really like as I'm a big fan of Arbok. Something that I noticed is that for the Hitmonlee, Kabutops, and the Haunter, the backgrounds are multi-changing and textured layered colors, which I assume is done sort of to enhance the holo pattern on the cards. As you can see, the layered colors on the Kabutops almost make it look like there are multiple colors all over the place in the holo. I'm still happy to see Sugimori illustrate cards for the TCG, and it's nice to see that the holographic cards by him were allowed to be a bit more dynamic in showing what the Pokemon are actually doing. Next, let's go over the cards illustrated by Mitsuhiro Arita, who illustrated 5 of the holographic cards in Fossil, being the Articuno, Moltres, Raichu, Zapdos, and the Muk. This is now the second Raichu Holo and the second Zapdos Holo, both going from Ken Sugimori to Mitsuhiro Arita, and you can tell that they're both very different sets of cards. The Raichu from base almost looks flat compared to the one from Fossil, and for some reason, to me, the tail just seems more flowy in Fossil, and the Zapdos almost looks like a different Pokemon in terms of its shape, as it's so stylistically different from the base set counterpart. It looks more scrunched up and more ready for battle, like it's trying to attack the camera. The Moltres faces up elegantly, with a swirling fiery vortex in the background. The Muk raises its scoopy hand with an upset face, and the Raichu cutely stands in a kind of bean-like position while it's raising its arm. The more common and uncommon cards I see from Rita, I see the sort of style that it's starting to form, where the cards keep feeling realer and realer, in the sense that the Pokemon feel alive in the environment that they're living in and almost breathing in. The Grimer is in some sort of waste plant. The Horsey spits out some kind of ink out of its mouth, I'm assuming. The Krabby looks forward into the distance, but that distance can only be left to our imaginations, and the Magmar stands alone in some sort of volcanic setting, as shades of color shift onto it. Arita continues to improve as an artist as he builds his portfolio of cards every set that releases, and I'm always happy to see and review his cards. Next, let's talk about the second newest kid on the block, Kagemaru Himeno, who illustrated 18 cards, same as Ken Sugimori. They only did 2 of the holographic cards in the set, but one of them is the most expensive and sought after card in the set, the Dragonite. The other one is Aerodactyl, which looks very menacing in its own right, but the Dragonite is posed up to be very cute, which I think is the main intention of Dragonite. It's a subversion of expectations. It's a super cool dragon, but it's not a menacing dragon. It's just designed to be more cutesy by nature. Cards like the Ekans coiling towards the camera, giving it a glare, or the Tentacool shooting out light beams off from its head are super cool. And even a Pokemon like Zubat can be seen flying with its squad of other Zubat. The Omanyte can be seen in front of some sort of ruins, and the Tentacruel expands on the light idea from the Tentacool by shooting it out all over the place from the middle of the card. The Slowbro is also really cool, with the green and the yellow bouncing off its bright pink skin. I'm still really impressed by this artist, which is obviously a very good thing, and I hope to see more cards from them in the future. Fossil may be the smallest set so far, but I feel like I had a lot of things to say about it, as it introduced the TCG world to Pokemon like Kabutops, Dragonite, and Gengar. I really personally enjoyed this set a lot, and I feel like out of the 3 sets, it might be weirdly my favorite. And also it's the cheapest of the three main sets, as after the Dragonite and the Gengar, the rest of the prices sort of totally fall off. For a full set of Fossil with damaged cards, you're looking at about $81 to $82, which still is actually not that bad to complete a set of very vintage cards. When it comes to my favorite cards from Fossil, I would have to say that the Moltres Holo, Dragonite Holo, Arbok, and the Krabby Common card are my favorites. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. Bye.